Hello, Nomad Sculpt. This is a just for fun video. Let's create such tiny houses, skyscraper, buildings, a whole city in a few minutes. Okay, things like this. Yes, I turn the wireframe on. You see it's very low poly. And also the windows are separate parts. Yeah. Let's start with a new scene. So, yes. And I delete the sphere and we need a plane and perspective off, wireframe on. Here in the topology, change the topology to 0 and validate your object. We need a other primitive, a box. You can make the box a little bit smaller and change also the divisions in the topology. We only need division 0 at the moment. So, and when you create such buildings like a skyscraper, you only need one floor. You create only one floor, and one floor is a little bit not the complete building, the height, like something like this, and only such a small thing here. And okay, the next steps are a little bit basic. So here with your object here at the left side there's a pivot function. It should also work with version 1.76 to bring the pivot to the bottom. So like this. Then you can leave the pivot option. So, and at the left side there's a transform tool. In the top pop-up menu you can leave the edit, and when you use now the transform you can move your object here around and place it where you want it. In the gizmo menu there's the option to bring it to the center. So try always to sculpt or make your things in the origin of the world. Move it to the origin. And place it here. Then your symmetry works perfect in every direction. Okay, when you create a skyscraper, you need windows. And in the topology you can decide how many windows you use. Here in the constant density you can change your divisions and create here your windows, and you can turn off constant density. So you can change here the grid or the grid or the wire of the object. So decide how many windows you have and change your divisions here. So something like this. And then you can validate the object. Then you can use the mask, and you can also use the symmetry here. We can use a y-plane and a radial symmetry of 4. Turn the symmetry on the left side, and here paint your windows like this. the more divisions you have, the more windows you can create. And in the mask settings here, you can change your shell thickness to 0, and you can split your mesh. So when you split it, you get your windows, and be careful with the border smoothness. Here the slider, set it to 0 and split your mesh. Your windows, you can give a other material, you can make it additive, so you can look through the windows. And you can also change it smooth shading off. Select your mesh and turn the smooth shading off. So here when you see now without wireframe, you got a clean topology and a nice object. The next step is you can select both the windows and the first floor and put it in a group, add a group. So with this group, it's possible when the group node is selected, you can move the pivot here and bring it to the bottom. So I turn the wireframe on again. Now when you use the transform tool, the group node is selected, or select the whole group. You can move this object here around on your plane. And with a gizmo, it's possible to adjust your object here, make it like this, or in this direction, or stretch it. Okay. Then when your group is selected, you can create an instance. There's here at the top instance option, and you can move your instance here in a new position and use your gizmo scalings. So like this. And it works fine when the pivot is at the bottom of the object, not in the center. So yeah, you can create different stylings of your buildings, and if you like, you can create another instance here, make it a little bit smaller like this, and place it. And when you're happy with it, select all your groups in the hierarchy and create another group. So you get a complete object here. And if you like, you can change the pivot again, bring the group pivot in this position. Okay. And the next thing is you can create from this group a repeater. You can add a repeater node. So select here the array repeater and use the green direction like this, and change here the size and be happy. So this is our first building. When you select here one group, you can create another instance and put it out of the repeater node. Bring it here and move it. Sorry, we need this whole group and create an instance. So let's move this out of the array repeater and move this here to the side and use the other repeater, the curve repeater. So this is a bit waggly, or yes, I don't know, it's not exact, but it works. So you can turn the gizmo off and the edit mode on, and here you can change the length of your building and make it straight and use a front view. And in the middle you can make a few nodes here, but you have to align it yourself here to create a straight building. So now change the count and you can edit the radii. So you can make your building here a little bit smaller and like this. And so this is our second building. Okay, and I hide now the buildings here and I bring in a new box. And I show you a small house. Okay, so let's change the divisions. Here I use a division of 1. I validate this object, change the pivot to the bottom, and I use the transform to place it here. With a cell mask, I use the lasso at the moment. So I check only the filter, front facing vertex only off, and here mask the top. And when you press on the screen, you can invert the mask and here create your roof and clear the mask. And with the cell mask again, turn the symmetry off and use the cell mask and select here one side of the roof. And here you can extract the mask, shell thickness 0 and border smoothness 0, and extract this part. Here on the main house object you can clear the mask here, and this is your extracted roof part. And here it's possible also to use the selection mask. Select this here, and in the solo view you can see it is selected. And when you use here the gizmo, you can now change the pivot again. So you can use the rotation and rotate it in this direction and leave the pivot. And now it's possible to adjust here your roof. You see it here like this, it moves in this direction. And it's also possible when you clear the mask and use the gizmo to scale it in this direction. Okay. And now here in the symmetry, it is possible to to mirror your object from the left side to the right side. So then you have your complete roof. And when you mask your roof and extract with a shell thickness of 1, you get a nice tiny roof. The mask you can clear or delete. Okay, so this is your small house here. You can select the both objects and add a group. Put it in a group. And this group node, you can change the pivot again and bring it here to the bottom. And when you select the complete group, you can change your house. You can scale it in different directions, like this. And it's also possible when you use here, when you can join your objects here and use the multi-resolution here. You can subdivide it a few times with a linear subdivision, and when you turn it off, you can make it a little bit smoother. Then it's a little bit cuter, or I think nicer. So let's go a few steps back. And with a subdivision, it's possible to mask here your windows, or you can split the mesh. Here, if you want windows, you can use here the split option. Check hole filling off and split here your where your windows are. Sorry, here the roof is in the this is a door, and here I want a window. And select all the parts here and join it. And here it's possible now with a mask to mask your parts. Shell thickness 0. And split your objects. The windows you can make additive. So now you get a nice small house. And this house is in a group. So when you select the group and make an instance, you can create a second house, change the dimensions like this, and create a new instance. And so on. Sorry. Okay, let's make the other buildings visible. And you can also create a little bit of a kit bash scenario. When you add I think a cylinder, and move your cylinder here and change the topology. Topology 4, and create a hole inside and change the radii. So, and change the smooth shading. So you get an object like this. You can validate this, and with a gizmo you can change the pivot here and rotate it. Rotation snap 45 degrees. So bring it in a position like this. And now you can change here your object. Make it a little bit smaller. And so you can create here this object. And it's also possible to work with a insert tool. Select a box and insert it here. Change the division to 0. And with a transform you can move it here around. And with edit you can create different parts of the building. Yeah, you can do such a lot of stuff with this and create a whole city. Have fun with sculpting. Ciao.